Welcome to the deep dive. Think about this for a second. Some scientists theorize that the Cambrian explosion, that huge burst of life way back when,
Half a billion years ago.
right? They think it might have been kicked off by sight, by vision evolving.
That's a wild thought.
Or, closer to home, how fast our own brains work. You see something, and bam, like 150 milliseconds later, you get it.
Those aha moments.
Exactly. And it's that kind of rapid understanding, whether it's biological or, well, artificial, that we're diving into today.
And it ties in so well with Fei-Fei Li's story, doesn't it? Especially reading her book, The Worlds I See, and listening to her talk about it.
It really does.
Her own journey and AI's journey. It feels like it mirrors that same rapid learning, those breakthroughs. So our plan today is to really dig into the key ideas from her book and her talks.
Kind of a focused look for you, the listener.
Right, a shortcut to understanding her impact and her view on where AI is heading.
And her impact is, well, it's huge. Stanford professor, founding director of the Human-Centered AI Institute there.
And her time at Google Cloud AI.
Plus, ImageNet. That was the big one, right? It just completely changed how AI sees the world.
Fundamentally. And she was just named a great immigrant recently, which speaks volumes about her story.
It really does. It's curiosity, resilience, innovation, all wrapped up.
Yeah, and what I find really compelling, especially in The Worlds I See, is how she weaves her personal story into the tech story. It's not just about code and data. It's about, a person's journey, how a whole field grew up, and her vision for making AI work for people.
A human-centered vision.
Precisely. So we're aiming to pull out those core nuggets for you today, straight from her narrative in the book and her conversations around it.
Okay, let's start where she starts, really. The roots of that curiosity she writes about. Growing up in China, she felt she had this intellectual freedom.
Yeah, she credits her parents a lot for that. Her mom loved literature. Her dad had this sort of free spirit.
So they encouraged her asking questions.
Seems like it. Even if it went against, maybe, what society expected back then. She mentions in the book this contrast. Maybe girls weren't pushed towards physics.
Right.
But her family made space for her to explore those interests anyway. That early freedom seems pretty foundational.
But then came the move to the U.S. New Jersey, right? With her mom first to join her dad.
And that sounds like it was tough, really tough, big hurdles.
The language, obviously. She tells that funny but kind of stressful story about not knowing how to ask for the restroom.
Oh, yeah, I remember that from the book. And just cultural stuff, too, like the gym class story.
Or she didn't get why the teacher kept her job.
Yeah, just different assumptions, different norms. And on top of all that, money was really tight.
Working in restaurants, cleaning houses. It's all in the book. Quite vividly.
It really paints a picture of resilience, that immigrant experience she describes. It's hardship, absolutely, but also building this incredible work ethic, learning to adapt super fast.
Those early struggles definitely shaped her.
No doubt, qualities that probably served her well later on.
And then while she's at Princeton, doing these intense studies, she's also basically running the family dry cleaning business.
Yeah, she jokes about being the CEO.
That's incredible. Balancing Princeton academics with, managing inventory and customers.
She calls it her first startup in the book. It must have taken unbelievable discipline.
Not your typical college experience.
Not at all. She talks about it as a sequestered existence. It really shows her capacity to just juggle massive responsibilities, maybe a sign of things to come with leading big research projects.
Possibly. And amidst all that pressure, she had this key mentor figure, right? Her high school math teacher.
Bob Sabella. Yes, she writes about him so warmly.
He was her first real American friend, it sounds like.
He had a huge support. He even set up a special math class just for her during his lunch break.
Wow.
His belief in her, helping her move into college. It just shows how powerful that kind of mentorship can be. It's a theme she really emphasizes.
It really is. That human connection making a huge difference.
Absolutely. A welcoming hand, Crucial.
And that welcome continued with the Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship. That helped with grad school at Caltech.
Hugely important. And she mentions in interviews, it wasn't just the money, though that was vital. Right. It was the community, connecting with other immigrants, all with these amazing stories of drive and making it work.
A sense of shared experience.
Yeah, validation, community. It fueled her ambition, you can tell from how she describes it. It really affirmed her path.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. How did she get pulled towards AI? Her first love was physics, right? At Princeton.
Yeah, she talks in the book about being drawn to the big fundamental questions about the universe.
Brand challenge it.
Exactly. But somehow that curiosity about how things work eventually led her towards understanding intelligence itself, specifically visual intelligence.
Interesting path.
It shows that consistent drive, I think, always wanting to get to the bottom of how things really work.
But back then, AI research in computer vision, it was pretty limited, wasn't it?
Oh, very. The focus was mostly algorithms, but they were working with tiny data sets, hand-labeled images, very controlled.
Nothing like the visual chaos of the real world.
Not even close. She talks about seeing this disconnect early on. Lots of math, lots of theory, but starved for actual data.
Progress was slow.
Incremental, yeah, because the models just didn't have enough information, enough variety to learn properly.
And then she encounters this Biederman number. What was that again?
It's the estimate that by age 6, a human kid can recognize something like 30,000 to maybe 100,000 different types of objects.
That many. By 6.
It's staggering, right? And she writes about how this number just crystallized the problem for her, the huge gap between us and the AI of the time.
It became a target, almost.
A key inspiration, definitely. It quantified the challenge and showed just how inadequate the current methods were. Clearly, something totally different was needed.
And that something different became ImageNet. That was her big idea.
It's her pivotal insight, yeah. That you couldn't get truly smart visual AI without massive diverse data.
So she decides to build this giant database. But her first plan, using Princeton undergrads.
Yeah. A bit optimistic, maybe. She calculated it would take them something like 19 years.
Okay, not practical.
Not even slightly. And she talks about that realization with humor, but it forced a major rethink. They needed a completely new way to get all those images labeled.
Which led her to crowdsourcing.
Exactly. Amazon Mechanical Turk, which was pretty new back then.
Using this global online workforce.
Right. It let her scale up in a way that just wasn't possible with a small academic team. That's how ImageNet actually got built. It's detailed really well in the book.
Pretty innovative thinking for academic research at the time.
Absolutely. Stepping outside the usual methods was key to making it happen. She really stresses that point when she talks about it.
And the impact. ImageNet basically fueled the deep learning revolution, right? Around 2012.
It was the catalyst. You had this huge data set combined with faster GPUs becoming available and these deep neural network algorithms.
Like AlexNet.
Like AlexNet, which just blew away the competition in the ImageNet challenge that year. It proved the power of the data-centric approach.
But she mentions in the book, not everyone was convinced at first. She faced skepticism.
Oh, yeah. Some colleagues thought it was the wrong direction. She felt like she was putting her career on the line, betting on data over just algorithm.
Big risk.
Huge risk, huge vision. And AlexNet's success just validated everything. It was a massive turning point for AI. She captures that drama really well in The Worlds I See.
But she didn't just stop at recognizing objects, did she? What came next?
Right. She realized identifying what's there wasn't enough. True understanding needs context.
Like how objects relate to each other.
Exactly. So that led to projects like Visual Genome, trying to map out those relationships, the actions, the attributes within a scene, much closer to how we see.
That makes sense, getting closer to human perception.
It's a step towards deeper comprehension, understanding the whole picture, not just the pieces.
And that deeper understanding is critical for AI in the real world, isn't it? She uses those examples. Robots struggling with simple things.
Yeah, making toast, tying a tie, or those early Boston Dynamics videos where the robots looked, well, a bit clumsy dealing with unexpected things like boxes.
Because our world is messy.
Totally. It's dynamic, unpredictable. You have to interact with things, do multiple things at once. It's incredibly complex for AI.
Just identifying objects isn't enough for a robot to actually function smoothly in a home or a factory.
Not at all. It needs to understand the how and why of the environment, not just the what.
Though one area where computer vision has made big strides is healthcare. She talks about that quite a bit.
Yes, things like ambient intelligence, using cameras and AI in hospitals.
For tracking surgical tools, maybe, or monitoring if doctors wash their hands.
Exactly, those kinds of things. And achieving really high accuracy, sometimes better than human observers. Plus the ICU patient mobility project she discusses.
What's that one?
Using AI to understand patient movement patterns to potentially help speed up recovery. It's about augmenting care.
That's fascinating. AI supporting doctors and nurses.
That's the vision. Improving safety, efficiency, patient outcomes.
And it also connects to the idea of addressing labor shortages, right? Especially in nursing.
Yeah, she sees AI not necessarily as replacing people, but as a tool to help overburdened staff. Augmentation support. That's her focus.
That fits her whole human-centered approach.
It does. Technology as a collaborator, helping people do their jobs better or filling gaps where needed. It's a consistent theme for her.
And to push this idea of AI interacting with the world further, her lab started the Behavior Project.
Right. The idea there was to build data sets not just of objects, but of activities, how humans do things.
Like folding laundry, making breakfast.
Yeah, everyday tasks. Train robots by showing them lots of examples of humans doing stuff. She admits the results have been mixed so far.
Uh-huh. Well, folding laundry is hard even for humans.
True, but the goal is clear. Move towards robots that can understand and perform complex actions, assisting us in daily life. Augmentation again.
So, thinking about the future, what's her overall vision? Where does she see all this heading?
Well, she definitely sees humans and AI cohabiting, working together. She anticipates increased productivity, big changes in the workforce.
Which would be disruptive.
For sure. But ultimately, she seems hopeful. She believes AI can become more perceptive, more aware of the world spatially, and contribute positively.
She has a sort of underlying optimism.
I think so. About AI's potential for good, and also about human resilience. She talks about the arc of civilization bending towards benevolence, towards justice, even with challenges.
That's a powerful thought. But she's not naive about the risks, is she?
Not at all. She shifted, as she describes it, from being purely a technologist to more of a hybrid scientist and humanist around the time she was at Google.
Why then?
Seeing the societal impact up close, realizing the potential downsides, she worries less about, AI overlords in the distant future.
And more about immediate problems.
Exactly. Bias in algorithms, AI being used for weapons, geopolitical tensions, misinformation, the techlash she mentions, driven by things like Cambridge Analytica, self-driving accidents, biased facial recognition, real-world harms happening now.
So responsible development is key.
Absolutely. Governance, education, ethical guidelines, comparing AI to powerful tools throughout history, they can help or harm. It's an ongoing tension.
And the pace of change is just incredible.
Astonishingly fast. AI is still such a young field, she calls it the new computing. Its potential as a tool for discovery in other sciences, biology, materials, climate, is immense.
Like a superpower for science.
That's the idea, but that power makes the how we develop it even more critical.
Which brings us to the role of academia and public research. Why does she stress that so much?
Because that's where curiosity-driven fundamental research often happens. Academia allows you to pursue ideas that might seem crazy at first.
Like ImageNet initially.
Like ImageNet, yeah, which got pushback, but was funded by public sources like the NSF and ONR. That freedom is crucial for breakthroughs.
And for training the next generation ethically.
Right. But she's really concerned about the growing resource gap. The sheer computing power needed for cutting-edge AI industry has tons of it. Academia and the public sector, not so much.
So they risk falling behind, unable to even evaluate what industry is doing.
That's the worry. It hinders independent research, oversight, training. She makes a strong case for much more public investment in AI infrastructure and research. It's urgent.
And finally, she emphasizes collaboration across fields, right? Like at the Stanford HAI Institute she leads.
Yes, bringing in experts from English, medicine, economics, philosophy, law, political science, all these different perspectives.
Because AI isn't just a tech problem.
It's a human problem, a societal one. You need all those viewpoints to tackle the complexity responsibly.
So wrapping this up, what's the main thing you, our listeners, should take away from Fei-Fei Li's story and ideas?
I think it's that blend. Her journey, which she shares so openly in The Worlds I See, shows the power of curiosity, the strength you gain from overcoming challenges like immigration.
And the huge potential of AI.
Definitely. But always tempered with this urgent call for a human-centered approach. Ethics, responsibility, public involvement. They're not afterthoughts, they have to be built in.
And something intriguing to chew on afterwards.
Maybe her idea that the physical world itself in 3D, changing over time 4D, deserves its own powerful model, just like we've tried to model language.
An AI that truly understands physical space and interaction.
Imagine what that could enable. It's a fascinating, far-reaching thought from her book.
We definitely recommend checking out the book itself, The Worlds I See. Curiosity, exploration, and discovery at the dawn of AI. It's a great read.
For sure. And the Stanford Human-Centered AI Institute website has loads of interesting resources, too.
Because ultimately, figuring out how AI sees the world and guiding it towards seeing it in a way that aligns with our values.
That's an ongoing journey for all of us. It requires that same curiosity, that exploration that Fei-Fei Li embodies.